In less than 24 hours, both the NFL free agent markets for wide receivers and cornerbacks may have been completely reset. And it could have massive and probably will have massive implications for the New Orleans Saints. So I'm Tim, and let's talk Saints. Apparently, last night, this morning, when I went to bed, no news on this. Woke up this morning having morning coffee, and I read that there's an earthquake in Cincinnati, apparently, where a lot of money got thrown around because they re-signed both their receivers, Jamar Chase, or rather extended Jamar Chase, gets a 4-year deal of 161 million, 112 million guaranteed, 40.25 million annual average salary. T. Higgins, 4 years, 115. First 2 years are guaranteed, average annual salary of 28.75 million. Not too long after that, we hear the Texans have extended Derek Stingley Jr. He gets a 3-year extension at 90 million, 89 million guaranteed. Do the math. He's basically a 30 million guaranteed a year guy. It's kind of insane numbers. In Chase's case, he replaces in less than 2 weeks. Myles Garrett is the highest paid non-quarterback in NFL history. Stingley is now the highest paid NFL defensive back in history. It's kind of some earth-shattering resetting of the market. And these two situations should have a very serious consequence going on with the 2025 NFL free agency overall, as well as the 2025 NFL draft. And you're talking about two positions for the Saints that it kind of critical, if for nothing else. I don't know how else to explain it. It's not like we're totally devoid of talent at either one of those two, but it's not like we're overstacked either. And the talk was potentially the Saints still trying to bring in a veteran free agent wide receiver. You kind of looking at the top three left available after the Cooper Kupp signing, and Amari Cooper, Stephon Diggs, Keenan Allen. They'll have ups and downs. They're all plus 30. Got some injuries history stacked up on a few of them, especially Diggs, who hurt his knee last year and missed the rest of the season. But they were all NFL receivers at one time in their career, and they probably still have some significant juice left in the tank. And they won't be anywhere near Chase or Higgins money. But Cooper Kupp signed for $15 million a year, and he's kind of right in that area. And if you look at the more or less the top three guys in kind of that pushing 30, maybe a little above 30 type age group, you're looking at Chris Godwin, of course, Cooper Kupp, Devontae Adams, and respectively, that's 22 million, 15 million, and 23 million per year annual average salary. Quite a bit of money. And with these two wide receiver signings has done, you can't count on the value or the asking price, rather, of wide receivers to drop in the second round of free agency. I think everybody was kind of anticipating that, and it seems like that's where we are now. But, man, the high end of the market just really, really went up. Well, for the Saints, the problem here is you only really have two receivers that are NFL caliber or high-level NFL caliber in your roster. It's Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed. And they're both, 2025 is the last year of their deals, and they're both coming off injury. So this kind of complicates things because in Shaheed's case, his contract voids in 2026. He will have nothing left but void years on it. But Olave, this is the fourth year of his rookie contract. So the only thing remaining is a fifth-round option for 2026. So you either pull the option, you extend him to a long-term deal, and you're going to let him walk. The Saints have until either May 1st or May 2nd, somewhere around there, to exercise that fifth-year option on Olave. And the best that I could tell, it's going to be around $15 million guaranteed in 2026 if they pull it. Now Olave's at Cooper Kupp numbers, right? But draw a comparison to, I think, a wide receiver that's kind of very similar to Olave, Hollywood Brown, who, for different reasons, but kind of injury based on both of them, they've had similar trajectories where you can see each one of them is a lot of talent, does a lot of things well, and kind of waiting for that jump to being a really, really good and legitimate number one receiver, but not, I mean, the names we were just talking about, either in their prime for the talking about the veteran receivers, or in the case of Higgins or Chase right now, not quite there, never quite got to that level. And even Hollywood Brown got re-signed by Kansas City for 11 mil on a 1-year deal. So no matter which way you cut it, there's going to be some things to consider for the Saints this year as far as wide receivers concerned. The injuries, Rashid's recovering from meniscus surgery, from a meniscus tear. I think they were giving him 4 to 6 months. He should be right around that. And barring no setbacks or anything ridiculous happen, he should be ready to go by training camp. Olave technically is ready to go right now, but Olave has always been my concern. And I actually had to go back and look it up. And as official as I can tell, 2020, when he was with Ohio State, suffered a concussion against Nebraska. 2022 with the Saints, suffered one against the Seahawks. 2023, one against the Falcons. 2024, the Bucks. And then a few weeks later, first against the Panthers. And the week before the Panthers, and I'd forgotten this until I saw somewhere mentioning it, he left the game the week before against the Chargers for a concussion evaluation, but passed and returned back to the game. Basically, in the last 5 years, he's had 4. 2021 was the only year he didn't have one. And this is problematic. And this just adds more indecision about what you're going to do at a position where, like I said, you really only have 2 guys right now. And you're not even sure if you're going to have either one of them, or if you get them, how long you're going to have in the. I mean, Olave's one concussion away from having to shut it down, not necessarily for the season, but I'm thinking he's got to be in the range where long term he has to think about his future. Similar scenarios are going to play out at cornerback. A lot of people, me included, have been waiting to see maybe the Saints bring in one more veteran cornerback. They brought in Yedem. I think he's a spot starter and backup, and I think it was a good move. But I don't know if you're looking at him to be 17 games opposite McKinstry. And you have Asante Samuel Jr., Rasul Douglas, Fuller from Miami. They're probably the top 3 vets, you could bring in. And let's look by comparison what the guys kind of around them have already signed for this year. Well, Reed, Ward, Murphy Jr., Davis, they all signed between 16 and 20 mil a year. And a Debo, who was not as highly ranked as free agents, got 18 mil a year from the Giants. So he's sitting in the middle of that, even though a lot of sites would have had him a little further down the list than those guys. It's very likely the asking price. Again, none of the guys available are going to get Stingley money. But if you wait for the price drop of the second round of free agency, these guys have got to be looking at it and going, well, it doesn't hurt to ask. And they're going to ask. And they may have the ability to sit it out and wait and see what happens. And it's similar because Alontae Taylor's in the same boat as Rashid Shaheed and Chris Olave. Now, he doesn't have an injury history sitting on him. He's in the last year of his deal with no void years. So he's a walk out the door. So you're going to have to extend him. And if he could be, that this is why the Yedem thing may be important, is Yedem may just be the backup spot guy to help out. And they may be considering to keep Alontae Taylor on the outside. Well, if you keep him on the outside, when you get time to talk about extension, he's now in the conversation of all those outside corners we were just talking about. He's going to ask. He would. It wouldn't. I couldn't see any scenario where he wouldn't. You're looking at probably maybe not getting him for the deal you thought you might be able to get him prior to the big Stingley signing. The 2025 draft also is going to be affected by this. look at wide receiver Tetora McMillan, and then cornerbacks Will Johnson and Jahdae Barron, and then Travis Hunter, who could be listed either way. But it doesn't matter which way you list them. Something you can see consistently in these 4 rookie prospects that get attached to their name and their profiles when people are evaluating them are 2 pretty cool words, which is all pro. Now, normally that's preceded by the word potential, but still, in the conversation of people evaluating rookies, all 4 of those guys going, and they're at the positions where we just talked about that the market got reset on a very hard upward tick. You got to think more teams than the Saints are looking at those guys going, man, it'd be great to draft somebody of that caliber, because I think everybody agrees it seems like their floor is high. You're getting good football players, but their ceiling is all pro or better. That's also what everybody seems to be thinking about them. You'd love to lock those guys down on a rookie deal. And in 4 or 5 years from now, then have to deal with, do I have to pay him a lot of money or what's going to happen? I could see a situation where there's some teams who, in front of us, who everybody thought, they may be going one way, may be reconsidering. You can also see teams behind us maybe deciding, that's a serious position of need for us. We couldn't address it in free agency so far. We're going to have to pay a lot now to do it. Maybe we move up and start looking at one of those guys instead of having to deal with the market. I don't really know which way that's going to play out in either scenario, but I cannot imagine a situation where you're going to look at it and go, yeah, this potentially doesn't impact what every team's trying to do in free agency or the draft at those 2 positions. Some teams are better than others, but we ain't one of the better off ones. There's at either one. Not exactly on paper devastated there, but I wouldn't even kind of put us in the strong category, but potentially could get better because McKinstry seems to be something you can tie into on the cornerback side. Shaheed more than likely is going to be okay. And it's just a question mark of Olave's concussion issues that keep you from going, we're okay there too. And it's a tough one to deal with there when you're talking about concussions. I think the big takeaway from this is, look, let's face it, Mickey Loomis is the dad that he cannot tell his kids no. They seem, especially over the last few seasons, if they ask or they, quote unquote, put their foot down, seems we kind of bend towards them. And if we don't give them everything, we give them most everything. And look, it's no secret. He's trying to roll it back. He thinks the team is last year was good to go, that he's just trying to improve it slightly, figuring I'm about ready to show everybody that we were the team that's going to win 11, 12 games, win a division, make a playoff run. I'm still not buying in the best circumstances more than 8 or 9 wins this year, but we'll see how it plays out. But what this does do is anybody he wants to talk to in free agency, or anytime he wants to have a conversation with the 3 players, Taylor, Shaheed, and Olave, look, at this point, I think they would just be completely insane to offer any type of home team discount when it comes to talking money. Now, they're going to ask. I would if I'm them. I'm going to ask. I ain't going to ask for Stingley or Higgins or Chase money, but I'm going to ask for some of those guys who we talked about that were already signed right under them and where they're sitting at. And in the case of Olave at $15 million on the option year, you're probably there already. So why not ask for 18, right? Why not ask for 20? Mickey might just give it to him. You throw in the draft into this, as we know, Mickey loves to trade up. He doesn't like to trade down. Never really does it. So this morning when I'm reading all this going down, I've got alarm bells going off, because it just seems like he can get into what I would consider panic mode and start, because there's still money we think available. We haven't seen everybody's contracts that they've signed so far, but it seems like there's still some money to spend. We were assuming maybe on a Tevin Jenkins, maybe on one of these receivers, maybe on Asante Samuel Jr., just waiting for the price to come down. Well, a couple of those names, no, it doesn't look like it's gonna. And so does he overpay on extensions? Does he jump in and overpay on potentially free agents bringing them in? Does he overpay in the 2025 draft? Does he decide he wants to move up and go, well, okay, if I'm looking to spend that, having to spend that much money, either at receiver or cornerback, let me see if I can get in the top 5. And what's that going to cost? And when you're looking at a team that in 2026, 2027, mostly 2026, you're going to have to deal with moving on for some veteran players that you're just running, but definitely by 2027, it's a lot of these guys you just restructured one way or the other. I just don't think they're going to be around anymore. Well, let's have some good drafts and replace them. But if you're giving up draft capital to move up 4 spots, I don't know if that pays off in the long run. May help you out this year and next year. But and once again, you're going to be back in that situation of if you're lucky, your roster's a mile wide, but it's still only an inch deep. But if Mickey could remain calm, one thing as I was kind of putting this together that hit me, goes, he could benefit from staying at 9. And I kind of look at it this way. I'm under the assumption the quarterback needy teams up there in front of us likely, now a couple of them have solved their issues, so the number goes down. But likely Ward and Sanders maybe go before 9. I think Ward definitely will. I think Sanders is the one. He may be sitting there at 9. That's a different conversation for another day. But assuming they go, you're looking at the 4 players that we talked about that, under these conditions, what happened today, I'd be very happy to get any of the 4, to be honest with you, at 9. I think we'd be okay there. But if they go with the 2 quarterbacks, that's 6 of the 9 players down. It would leave Genty, Warren, and Graham, 3 guys who also I'm seeing an awful lot in their rookie profiles about having an extremely high floor, a very good ceiling, and 3 rookies that the words potential all-pro also get thrown around on their profiles. So you don't necessarily think from the draft standpoint we're in bad shape. No matter how this shakes out, again, unless both quarterbacks are still sitting there at 9, but even then, that may be to our advantage. Everything else involved, going the free agent route or re-signing our players that are basically going to need extensions at some point during this year, or having to pick up that 5th-year option on a lobby. It's a little disconcerting that every time we think we can kind of reel our spending in, and it didn't really happen this year, but you're looking going, okay, we maybe delayed it a year, but we can kind of get out of this. But under the assumption that Mickey just wants to keep deficit spending, and more, it's looking like he's going to keep doing that as long as he's there. I think we could very well, all said and done, we could very well wind up in some overpay situations coming up, regardless if it's tapping into the remaining free agency market or extending guys that are already on the roster. Originally, I had planned on, since we're counting tampering period, we're about a week into free agency. I did a mock draft over the weekend, was going to have another way too early mock draft episode today. It's going to be Wednesday. This kind of pushed it back a little bit. Don't think it affected or made any changes to it, so I should be able to lock that down this afternoon. But with my luck, something will probably break in the next day or 2 that's going to force me to have to redo it first thing Wednesday morning. We'll see. So first time here, if liked everything we got, go ahead. Give me a thumbs up, please. Helps out the algorithm a lot. Everybody, please give me a thumbs up. It helps the algorithm out a lot. Go ahead, like, share, subscribe, the whole 9 yards. Appreciate everybody that's coming in and hanging out with us. Go ahead, tell me in the comments what you're thinking with the free agency uptick, kind of what effect it could have on the Saints, because I just can't imagine we're not going to be affected by those 3 contracts that got kicked out by 2 by Cincinnati, 1 by Houston. Yeah. We'll see. So till I see you next time, I'm Tim. Peace out and who dat.